This is my breakdown of the Hollow Knight SILKSONG announcement trailer. It begins with Hornet being carried away in a cage, with creators saying a significant part of the game will be about learning why Hornet was brought here to this strange new land. But of course, our favorite huntress is far from helpless, and once the opportunity arises, she uses her threads to wrap around the environment and break free. From there, we get our first look at the actual HUD display. The HP masks look like an inverted and angled version of the knights, with the soul gauge being replaced with a circle. Underneath it is a new gauge that seems to represent how much thread Hornet has at her disposal. Next, we see several areas of this new kingdom, all of which seem to be far more detailed than what we saw in the original Hollow Knight. The first area is a lush green forest with flying insects in the foreground and background. The second area is a graveyard similar to the resting ground, but with a number of strange birds on sticks. These might be a religious symbol in the form of whatever god this kingdom worships, or it might be something similar to the works of Vlad the Impaler, with these being bugs killed and placed upon spikes to serve as a warning. Next is an area that I first thought was a colorful garden until I saw the fish swimming around. This could mean this entire area is underwater and may require a special ability to properly traverse. Or maybe similar to Sonic, where you have only a limited supply of air and must keep finding air bubbles. From there, we next go to what appears to be another beehive. This is quite interesting, as they may have some relation to the hive in Hollow Knight. Perhaps a young bee departed her hive and formed her own in this new kingdom. Next, we see some of Hornet's gameplay style. She is seen performing a charge attack from both the ground and air, before performing an air dash and then jumping through the air, spinning as she goes, which is a truly beautiful touch. Next, we see her use a range attack, throw a needle at enemies, and pull herself towards it. Performing this action seems to reduce the thread gauge, but striking enemies seems to recharge it, as it does not refill when she pulls herself towards the wall. I'm not sure how this will work in the game, in regards to aiming, or if you'll need to grind enemies to get the necessary thread to traverse certain areas and puzzles. We then saw that the game would include 150 brand new enemies, which Team Cherry has assured us will not just be recolored versions of old enemies. We see a rather interesting boss spitting on Hornet as she ducks under platforms. The next shot shows an enemy with scissors attacking Hornet, while above it is a bug in a hood that bears an interesting resemblance to Hera the Beast. Next, we see some bugs with bells on their heads. No idea what that's about. From there, we saw an incredibly powerful charge attack that completely emptied her soul gauge. Next, we see what seems to be a boss team, and then a creature similar to the bee we saw before, but with a pair of scissors. Scissors and bells seem to be important here. From there, we see some new bosses. The first seems to be this game's version of the stag, as Hornet is seen riding it later in the video. Next, we see a boss that reminds me quite a bit of Grimm. The next boss gives us a chance to see Hornet using her Gossamer Storm attack, which eats up a lot of thread, while the following boss reminds me of Dung Defender and seems to use Coral as an attack. According to the press release, this next boss is called Lace, and seems to take place in front of a crashed elevator. Following that is a boss battle that seems to take place in a coliseum in front of cheering spectators, and may imply a new tournament of fools will take place in this game. Following that is a freaking monster. Seriously, this is by far the biggest boss from either Hollow Knight game so far, towering over Hornet and destroying the stage with a single swing. After that, we're introduced to new allies. The first is Chakra, who appears combative at first, implying that she may need to be defeated before she sides with you. She also has a series of scrolls on her back, so she may end up being the new Cornifer. From there, we see Sherma, who, like the bug we saw before, was wearing a bell on her head and seems to be some kind of mechanical wizard, as waving her staff makes the gears move. We may need her to get through certain passages or to unlock new areas. After that, we meet an old bug who reminds me of the pilgrims from Dark Souls 3. That's just what I first thought when I saw him. Finally, we see the boss we saw earlier, who seems to have taken up his role as Stag, digging through the ground to quickly get between faraway areas. We also see an interesting maneuver in which Hornet completely empties her soul and thread gauge to completely heal herself while still in the air. From there, we see a series of new towns, further proving just how much bigger this game is. We see a town made of dung, one that seems similar to the Hive, and a rather small town that seems to be crushed to dust beneath the feet of a giant hermit crab hiding in a monstrous skull. Next, we move on to quests. Team Cherry has confirmed there will be more quests in this game, and even a quest log to keep track of them. The quest selection screen seems to show there will be quests related to finding certain objects, hunting specific enemies, and bringing items to a certain location. Garmond and Zaza are then seen charging forward, taking out enemies in your path. They may join you on some quests, with the goal being to bring them to a location safely. We also see another Bellhead working with very small tools to build something. And speaking of which, next up is Hornet's new tools. We see Hornet using her snare trap seemingly to bounce off of. Before we're shown Hornet's crest setup. She seems to have 3 open slots, with each one able to hold a specific type of crest. The red ones seem to be for traps with at least 9 possibilities, including the snare, a pair of pincers similar to what we saw in what I believe was the tournament, and a pin pillow, which seems to act like a bomb. The description says it can hurt friends and foe alike, which may confirm that allies will fight alongside you in this game. You also see bugs similar to the ones generated by the glowing womb, but they don't seem to use up any soul or thread when summoned. A blue needle is then seen, which seems to add a lifeblood mask, which strangely enough seems to use the knight's design, but this may be an error on Team Cherry's part. We also see what is basically a chainsaw carving through anything that stands in your way. Team Cherry has said in a recent interview that Hornet would not simply find these things, but build them herself using acquired material and the aid of allies she has met. We then see a strange boss hidden by shadows, are told new secrets lay hidden, and see Hornet apparently going Super Saiyan in a room that resembles her home, in a mask very similar to that of her mother's. And finally, we see what appears to be a very important bell. Team Cherry stated this game will be about climbing to the top of this civilization. Maybe this bell is what awaits you at the top, and their religion says their god will appear when it is rung, or the world will end, or they'll all evolve into new forms. We see no signs of the corruption in this game, so the bugs we face are likely not mindless slaves. They may have a grand ambition they are all working towards. And those are my thoughts on this trailer. I am super excited for this new game and can't wait for it to come out. Team Cherry has confirmed its release on Switch and PC, but are working to get it on other platforms as well. Let me know what you thought of my breakdown in the comment section below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more Hollow Knight content. Peace.